Hey everyone, I am here with Richad Nieves Becker, and he is coming to us from New York City. And we're talking today about retreats. And specifically,
hmm
Richad came on the retreat to New Orleans last year, and he and his wife Julie are signed up for the Bali retreat this year. T minus, how many months are we now from Bali?
It's September, so
September.
right now it's in middle end of January,
Yeah.
so
So
eight
like
months.
8 months, like it's going to come up
hmm
fast. And I wanted to talk to him because it's hard to know what a retreat's going to be like unless you're one, go on the retreat, or two, you hear from people that have been on one before.
hmm
So, Rashad, let's start with the retreat to New Orleans last year. That was the first retreat that you've been on with me. And I remember you walked in our mansion and you and Julie found your room and you were like, this is different than other retreats I've been on or other experiences
Mm.
I've invested in. What was different about it from the start?
Yeah, well, it was just the fact that you curated it. You're the best curator of live immersive experiences that I know of, at
Oh,
least
thank
for
you.
like growth oriented experiences. It's because I've been part of other personal development groups in the past. Like this is obviously a lifelong interest of mine. Um, Only more recently I've had like the money to do these sorts of events. But yeah, it was actually funny because the previous week I was at an informal thing, sort of arranged jointly in a coaching group I'm in. It's like sort of an annual thing with a forum and course access and the like. And that experience was very different from being with you. The main differences are that one, the people that you attract. So there was, if I hadn't met any of them in person before, but it felt like we were friends
Hmm.
already. And it got really deep really fast. The second was just the thoughtfulness put into all aspects of the experience. So I I don't think I'm naturally a person who would think, oh, I care about these things, like, oh, the how nice the room is, or how many amenities you have, or something like that. I'm not. It's not like I'm super cost conscious. It's more just like, well, I don't know if I would care. I'm not sure. I'd rather like it's the activities themselves, but actually, like the venue that you chose, the mansion in New Orleans, and all of the things we did, it really added to the overall experience.
Hmm.
So it just felt it was like yeah, it was one of the most like I guess moving and interesting experiences I've ever had in my life. Yeah, and it surprised me, I guess. hmm
Why did that surprise you?
Um, hmm. Because I'm used to not caring about those factors, but I noticed that those factors had an impact. Yeah, and also I guess I'd never experienced an immersive setup where you end up breaking the barriers so quickly. This is probably the main thing I got out of it, actually, because in the first day there were like tears rolling and I don't know, like a positive way, and I thought that was really surprising to me. I didn't realize that by curating a certain order of things, that you're able to bring people in this emotional journey uh, that leaves them feeling very refreshed and like with lasting changes.
Hmm. That's so cool. Yeah. So we did for people watching, people came into the mansion. We'd created little signs to go on their doors with their names, and there was lovely food that had been chosen from all local vendors. And we did authentic relating, which is authentic relating games. Rashad knows them well because we also play them in
Mhm.
the virtual co-working community. And it's just a way to go way beyond small talk really fast and get to the heart of what matters. And oftentimes people feel deeply connected. There might be tears if they're feeling, happy or gratitude or any number of emotions. And it was really special because we played those pretty much right away, and everybody
Mhm.
jumped right in and
Mhm.
really made the most of it. It was so cool.
Mhm.
Um, did you have any other? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to ask about the New Orleans retreat for you. Um, I
I
guess
was
it.
gonna.
Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say that I even now it would be I would have to think about recalling the specific details that you just mentioned because I tend to remember my general impressions of things rather than the specific order of things, right? So again, it's not necessarily where my mind is going. I more think about like the principle behind it. Like you arrive and you already feel taken care of. So that's like the generally what you did. And then the room was surprising in a good way. So then you're already primed to feel better and open in a spacious way. And then with doing the authentic relating, you break down the barriers quickly. So you started with something like fun and light, that AR, and then you went into like a more intense. AR that left you feeling, well, I guess a lot of gratitude. Yeah, especially like hugging people. I was surprised how it affected me, you know,
Yeah.
physically and emotionally and mentally, and how it left a lasting impression. To this day, I like to hug longer now than I used to. So
Oh,
that was one thing, right? So yeah, those that would just having that like curated experience from start to end with someone who really cares and knows how to actually induce those feelings, I think is very valuable and is not common. Since that retreat, I did a there was an event literally called Skip the Small Talk. I did in New York, and while it was good, it wasn't as good, right, as yours. Like I don't know why authentic relating is not this more well-known concept, but it is the easiest, deepest way to get deep real fast. Nothing I've experienced is like it. And to do it in
mm,
person is really powerful.
totally. Yeah, it's such a gift. So in 3 words, 3 adjectives, how would you have described the New Orleans retreat?
Hmm. Sparkly, moving, flowing.
Nice. I love that. That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
And, you know, once I feel like when you go on a great retreat, it is natural to feel inspired to go on another retreat. And
Hmm.
like I mentioned, you and your wife, Julie, have decided to come to Bali, which is a much bigger experience, right? You're traveling halfway across the world.
Hmm.
You know, it's still, the retreat's actually still very affordable, but it's still, you know, a
Hmm.
larger investment.
Hmm.
And it's more time, right? We'll be there for 10 days. So, what inspired you guys to sign up for that trip?
Well, I wanted more of New Orleans because I think New Orleans was like 2.5 or 3 days, and then everyone was like, "Wait, why was it so short?" And we were literally like, "Who decided? Who said that they weren't able to?" And we couldn't figure it out, which is fine. But we're like, "Wait, why was it so short?" And so with Bali, there's the element of being in a further place, which is interesting. So you'll learn more. I've been to Bali once, so I found it interesting from as an anthro guide from like a cultural perspective to just observe how it works and then also see the effect of tourism on that place, and then two to see how spaces are curated. So the place that we're staying at seems super cool, and when I look at these things, I used to not do this before, but it could be a sign of getting older, I guess. It I'm kind of like, oh, what if I lived in a place like this or this? Or like I try to notice like little details and say, oh, this goes into that and that makes it cool. So it does this to you, you know, or something like that. Right. So I think now I'm trying to look at spaces and understand how they like work and how they affect and imprint on your brain, you know,
Mm,
which is also something by the way that anthropologists study. When you're looking like the pyramids or something like that, they're like, okay, when you go into this space, what do you do? What does it do psychologically? So that's like one thing. It's like sort of this broader interest in that and the idea of applying it. And the other thing is just having like a lot more time. I'm just curious what will happen as we go even deeper with the same crew over time. Like, given more time, what will happen? Will it plateau? Will it branch where we like explore different feelings in different days? Um, will I discover something about balancing doing some work while in an experience like that without it feeling like, oh no, I'm not on a vacation or I'm not restoring myself? Is there some way to find that balance? So those are like my personal questions, I guess, you know, that I'm curious to explore. It's very idiosyncratic. Other people will have different interests, I'm sure. So, but those are some of mine that are off the top of my head.
nice, beautiful. You know, we're getting a lot of people coming back who are in New Orleans, which is amazing. And if somebody was thinking of signing up for this trip and they're like, ooh, how do I know if I'm going to jive with people? Who do you think
Hmm.
is the type of person that would do best on the Bali trip?
Let's see. Well, the first thing I would say is that you need to have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Carol Dweck's famous concept. Essentially, you have to think that it is possible for people to change, and then also to be willing to actually want to change, right? To actually experience something different. That's one thing. Another thing is probably is balancing going deep with respect for space. So there's always this fine balance in anything you do with people wanting space and not wanting to make them feel uncomfortable, but also wanting to make them feel just uncomfortable enough that they have an interesting and amazing experience, because the best experiences are right on the edge of discomfort. And
Yes.
so you have to be kind of willing to not only experience that for yourself, but be willing to give that to others, aka like kind of push them a little bit potentially, like not be so afraid of getting in other space, so to speak, mentally, emotionally, physically, I would say. Yeah, although it's obviously safe, you know. So I guess another thing would probably be, if you desire to find work that is more inspiring and motivating, so you desire to feel inspiration, you feel that that is an integral part of working,
Mm.
as opposed to the way that many people feel in the average 9 to 5 job, where they sort of sequester that part of their life, and then they live for the weekend or they live for their family, and then the job is just a job essentially. I don't think it People who think like that wouldn't really get the point, I think, of an experience like this. I don't think they would generally. So I think people who want to be able to either find either a larger purpose, like, oh, I want to feel courage and emotional inspiration to actually pursue something in the bigger picture,
Mm.
or they're already pursuing that bigger picture thing they really want to be doing, but the way that they're executing it doesn't feel as inspiring and nice. So it's more like improving the processes and just realizing things about themselves. Ultimately, someone who desires self-discovery and group exploration would benefit from coming on the trip.
I love that. Yeah, it's one thing I love about the people that were in New Orleans and the people that generally come on my trips is that they're open, they're kind, they're interested in personal development,
Mhm.
and they truly want to connect with others. Other people matter to them, and they really believe in the joy of connection, discussion, trading ideas, and learning from each other. Um, is there anything, just out of curiosity, any part of the Bali trip that you're most looking forward to?
Oh, you have to remind me of the things we're doing. I haven't looked at the list in like months, because
Yeah.
I knew, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, cost, okay, time of year. All right, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go. Pretty
Well,
much.
we're doing a lot. We're gonna go visit some waterfalls. We're doing a sunrise hike up a
Mhm.
volcano. We're gonna
Uh,
go see fire dancing. We're gonna like have free time out in Ubud to go see live music or go to sound baths or do yoga. We're gonna explore the
hmm.
Bali food culture, including an optional night out to this place called Room for Dessert, which I think you'll like because he was on Chef's Table, that TV show, and
Oh
he's like
yeah, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So,
Mhm.
so those
Yeah.
are just some of the, and then of course authentic relating, and
Hmm.
all the participants will have a chance to teach something if they'd like to. So we'll learn from
Hmm.
each other as well.
Yep. Yeah. So I'd be excited about the AR and the teaching, because I think when you put in effort yourself to do something in an interesting and unique environment and space, it sticks with you more than if you're just consuming things. Like,
Mm.
the you appreciate a hike more if you walked it than drove it. Because you're like, well, I see the view, but it feels different when you physically exerted yourself, right? The other thing I'd probably most excited about is the hike. As in, when I was in Bali, I also did a sunrise hike. It was like in business school, and we did a study abroad, and we ended in Bali. And yeah, we woke up at 3 a.m. and all this stuff. I just had like chia seed pudding and black coffee with a lot of sugar in it. That's all I had for like that morning. And but I remember we saw monkeys, we saw all sorts of things, like the environment and the temperature changed dramatically, which I
Mm.
thought was very interesting, to see those environments. It reminded me of Iceland in that way, because Iceland is the other place where if you go 30 minutes, you turn a corner and then the environment's completely different. The rocks are different, the color's different, the flora is different. So that's really interesting. So yeah, probably the hike. Other things that excite me are probably the chance for serendipity and randomness. So visiting those kinds of events where you can interact with other people rather than just, say, watching something and then sticking amongst yourselves and going home. So it could be the dance, it could be culture excursions, um, going to the chef's place where maybe we could talk to them, because in those kinds of places in that part of the world, often the owners are there and you just sort of hang out and you can talk to them. So that is exciting. It's the serendipitous conversations, the AR, and the hiking. Those are the three things.
Mm.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for agreeing to share with me and everybody watching your experience. And any final words of advice? If somebody's on the fence about the Bali trip, any words of advice for
Hmm.
them?
Hmm. Well, maybe you should. I mean, you could try out co-working to see if you connect with the people in the group first. it's a very low price point, and you also get to do AR, try out AR activities once a month virtually over Zoom. And that's what made me realize how powerful AR is, because it's super powerful even over Zoom. I've made life decisions based on things that came out of AR,
Mm.
or committed to things that I was afraid of or whatever, right? I've done all sorts of real effects. So I would say like if you, I would try it out, as I'm a rather risk, I can be rather risk averse. Try it out first in low stakes, and then after that, like invest quickly.
Mm.
Maybe because I would say that, well, firstly, the flights will get more expensive as time gets closer to it. But also, if you go in, if you find that you enjoy like one AR experience and a couple co-working sessions, and you have the general values alignment that I was talking about before, then I would say that there's not much else to really explore. Like that's then you were almost certain to enjoy the experience, and then I would just be decisive and invest. That's it.
Amazing. All right, Richad, thank you so much for being here and have a great rest of your day over there in New York.
Thank you.